Well. Number something? Chapters 6 and 7 I'm going to do today. As always, my name's Isaac Ramsey. I'm 26 years old, and when I was 20, I hitched 4,500 miles over the course of 11 weeks across 18 states. And the book Across the Pond, Down the Road and Under the Bus, which comes out in November, is the book about that journey. Today I'm going to be going over chapters 6 and 7, so I hope you fucking enjoy that. So, as I'm sure you're aware by now, the chapters don't have chapter titles, they have keywords. So the keyword for chapter 6 is cynical, believing that people are motivated purely by self-interest, distrustful of human sincerity or integrity. And the keyword for chapter 7 is crepuscular, of or pertaining to twilight. So yeah, we get caught basically camping on private land. From an outbuilding, a balding man strode toward me. Everyone has a gun. I drew my British vocal cords from their holster and fired. "We're really sorry, sir. It was dark and we'd just arrived in town. I didn't realise it was private land." We were granted swift passage and even offered a grubby finger, pointing us in the direction of the city centre. And then we meet Ted. Oh dear, Ted. Ted was a character. Ted, in theory, is now in jail. Now, either one or both of the following statements is true. I smelt profusely of cannabis, or methamphetamine is not good for you. Whatever the facts, a hushed voice cut through the silence, reaching out to us from the rear of the library. It was more of a stage whisper, loud enough for us to hear across the 30-foot room, and many heads turned. And honestly, we were sat there, we were on the computers in the library, we were looking at Reddit, because you can find the railway lines on Reddit, like who owns what line, what train you should jump on to go in which direction, that sort of thing. And we were just sat there using the computers, and we just heard from across the whole room, everyone turned and looked, and it was just like, marijuana. And we looked around, and there was just this scabby desert boy. What a guy. So obviously I heard that and I thought he was trying to sell, so I was like, okay, right, come outside of us. And it turns out he wasn't. He was just clinically insane all the way through. He's talking to his reflection, he's talking to his shadow. It's like, Ted, man. Whew. Meth, mate. Fucking meth. A few little notes, me being kind of manipulative, because India was like enjoying spending time with Ted, and I was like, we cannot take him with us. we cannot try hitchhiking with him. We cannot get caught on a train with him. Do you know what I mean? Bad luck. Bad news. And he just kept robbing stuff as well. Admittedly, an infinite source of free sustenance was tempting, but Ted was playing his game too. A shot aimed at reciprocal altruism, and I saw straight through him. Also, watching him with vigour converse with his shadow was off-putting to say the least. Oh goodness me. Like an escaped convict, I duckedly paced between coverages. I don't know if duckedly is a word, but I've used it. I duckedly paced between coverages, minimising brief exposures. At the edge of the perimeter was a 10-foot wall of hedge. I scanned for an exit but found nothing but gnarled branch after gnarled branch. In the corner of my eye, hard hats and high-vis passed between gaps in the haulage. That was a nice little passage, I like that. Riding train, you know, it's fucking hit and miss, man. This is the thing, like, if we had a proper freight train network in the UK, I would just always be on a train. Invented an idiom, I think. And then milled about until I plucked up the courage to punch the goose. As in, do something that has to be done, but you don't really want to do. What's going to happen? Unpredictable. Punch the goose. I just punched, do you know what I mean? I milled about until I plucked up the courage to punch the goose. Fucking Shakespeare over here. Chapter 7. And then the man You should have yelled. You should have gotten my attention somehow, anyhow, at all. India. I was scared. We sat in the truck stop. I slid a breakfast pizza around its cardboard box, soaking up excess juices. Fuck. I kept repeating it like a mantra. It hummed through my mind, fuck, I'm sorry, fuck, I'm sorry. She understood. I understood, but I couldn't let this happen again. Yeah. So we headed east on foot towards Las Cruces in silence. I'm not gonna go into that any deeper. I'll talk through it with India probably when she comes on to do an episode of this with me. And then we get to Alamogordo and we meet Lily. So I'd met Lily when I was 14 on some weird little like Habbo hotel type thing. We'd stayed in contact for ages and ages and ages. Yeah, I let her know that we were coming to the States and she was like, yo, I'm going from New Mexico to Colorado like this coming weekend. We ended up going and meeting her and oh, she was just a pleasure. Proper like southern New Mexico pride, like cowboy hat and boots. So before she took us back to hers, we went to the coffee shop she worked at. This little passage, this is all new. Leaning over a railing in the car park, the vanilla iced latte in my hand gushing with condensation, I gazed out across the desert valley. The vastness of it all began to erect a home in my psyche. The valley back home, the Vale of Clwyd, was minute in comparison, and it had a coastline to the north containing the landscape. Here the land spilled out across my field of view, the white sun diffusing into the golden sand, splashing a silvery mirage across the elusive horizon. The earth and sky became one, a radiant orb containing all that was. Behind me, the door of the cafe clicked shut, and the girls came out to join me. I love writing descriptive passages. Like, there's something about writing a beautiful piece of descriptive text that it fills me with pride and joy just to do it. Obviously, writing the long form novel, I've just had to pepper that in, save it sound a bit flowery. But I do try and leave a bouquet every now and then. Southern hospitality, I end up offending a few people through ego and pride and laziness. Going to bed early and not having dinner with our hosts. Refusing to let Lily pay for dinner. Just young man bullshit. Two in my own head. I nearly sneak into someone's hot tub. We found ourselves at this random family and friends party. So Lily delayed her travel from New Mexico to Colorado because she was going to one of her close friends' graduations. And we were invited. So we show up at this football stadium and we're amongst loads of just people who are like supposed to be there. And like me and India like dressed as homeless people, like watching all these fucking kids graduate with Lily. It's surreal, man. In vain, the sun grasped at the blue foreground, scraping reluctantly across the dome under which we found ourselves walking into the football stadium. One by one, little happy faces took to the stage and were offered ribbon-tied certificates. They tossed their caps together, perfect squares, stitching a quilt across the now purpling hue of the heavens, before the soft breeze tugged them this way and that, punctuating their inevitable descent. Cheeky bit of foreshadowing. And then I talk a bit about how I find myself socializing a lot easier without cannabis. So this is just more foreshadowing of my eventual sobriety. But yeah, I was relatively sober bar a few cold beers, passing energy to and from with an array of aunts and uncles. So yeah, like at the time, I had not accepted that cannabis wasn't working for me. And I still genuinely believe that it aided me in socialization and it aided me in creativity. But it was just a crutch and I was just numbing myself out. The seeds of my realization of this are sown here and from here on in. So this is like the calm before the storm. This is just before we get the big ride out of Colorado in a chapter or two, which is one of the first passages I ever posted online, actually. The stability on which the first third of the book is based is very much about to fall apart. It's weird because the first third of the book only covers like 2 weeks, and then from like chapter 10 to chapter 23 is like 2 months. And I feel like it's been hard to maintain pace at the beginning because I need to tell a lot more regarding who and what and where and why. But it really feels like probably from chapter 7 onwards, it starts to really pick up the pace. And I almost wish I could just start it there. But that wouldn't do India justice. I should probably split it into 2 parts and do part 1 when I'm still with India and part 2 when we've parted ways, which is something I might think about. But yeah, that's it for this week. As always, on my Patreon you can find the audiobook quality versions of the readings of these chapters. There will be another edit following a proofread. So everything that's on Patreon isn't final as going to be published, but it's pretty damn close. So if you're bored and you'd rather spend £3 on a podcast than have every 20 minutes punctuated by adverts, then you can find the Across the Pond, Down the Road and Under the Bus readings on my Patreon. All the links for everything are everywhere. So before I leave you, just a little update on my little house. So the floor is now completely clear. That's all bare slate. This was 6 inches of fucking shit with the flue sticking out that hole. Little log burner there. And then eventually I'm going to build a wooden bed, which is going to come out here. Little side area here. Over there eventually is going to be another bedroom. And now I've moved everything downstairs. This mezzanine eventually is all going to get ripped up because the joists are sound, but the amount of floorboards I've gone through just walking around, man, it's a joke. Anyway, I was Isaac Ramsey. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your week, and I'll see you next Sunday.